Hello and welcome back to the Simplifiers Podcast, where we take topics in business and in life and simplify them. And friends, I'm so excited to talk to our special guest today because we are talking about a topic that we don't really necessarily talk about all too often. We go, yeah, I'm fine. Everything's fine. You know, it's like meme with the guy and he's sitting in a room that's on fire. Everything's fine. But what I'm actually want to talk about and simplify today is your own self-confidence. How are you doing? Let's check in on that, especially after the year that we've just had last year. Let's simplify how to supercharge your self-confidence, both in work and in life. So my special guest today is Kate Eckman, and she is the author of The Full Spirit Workout. She's a seasoned broadcast journalist and TV personality who really brings her expertise together in communications, performance, and also the key ingredient, mindfulness, really helps her as a success coach for business leaders and athletes. It's that melding between brain and body health. Now, Kate is also a meditation teacher and a course creator for Insight Timer, the world's #1 ranked free meditation app. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers Podcast, Kate Eckman. Hey, Kate.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm so delighted to be here.
I'm pleased you're here too. And after reading your book, I certainly feel like you and I are soul sisters. Like we are literally living two very parallel lives in very parallel times and have hit a lot of the same tragedies and challenges and difficulties and also maybe even triumphs in life. I want to start with your background. Now, in school and growing up, you were a college athlete. You swam professionally in college and things like that. How do you think that shaped who you were and who you are today?
Well, I was a competitive swimmer for 17 years, which is a no-joke sport. If you're a swimmer, you know, if you're any athlete, you know, I honor you, the commitment and dedication. And with swimming, it's all about time. It's all about discipline.
Yes.
While everyone else is on spring break, you're training for nationals. While everyone's celebrating Christmas, you're doing 2-a-days for Christmas training. And so it just taught me the core strength and confidence to really work hard, to be a great teammate, to have that swagger and self-confidence and to show up for myself, for my teammates, for something bigger than me. I think sports are so profound and teach us so many lessons. And it really just gave me that drive and determination. And I think it also taught me so many valuable lessons. One was, you know, everyone talks about, I want this, I want this, I want this. And they see the end result from so many people in society, but then maybe aren't as willing to put in the work. So I just think back to how much work I put in year round, day after day for races that lasted 25 seconds or less than a minute, or I swim the 500 free, which was less than 5 minutes. And so it's, even as I'm saying it out loud right now, it's just that good reminder, because I think sometimes we work so hard and we're not seeing that return on investment or that result that we want, and we get frustrated. And it's that, you know, especially this past year, you want to just throw your hands in the air or look up at God or whomever you believe in and like, what the heck?
What was that?
And it is that metaphor, because, you know, some races, the 400 IM long course, brutal, but you don't stop after the backstroke. You have to keep going. And so I think that's just our message. Just keep going and trusting and like in your body that you can finish the race, and just trusting in your instincts and to keep going. And you will see that reward ultimately. It is much easier to throw in the towel and just want to give up. But I think it does speak to just the strength and confidence, the inner strength and confidence that you build by just following through and keep going.
Yeah. And I imagine that there are quite a few women out there, and I don't want to stereotype, but it just seems like for women in particular in this day and age right now, we're really prone to a lack of self-confidence. And especially my colleagues and friends in England, a cultural versus English people, British people versus Americans, at 10,000 times more. Confidence, self-confidence, all of that is an issue. It's something that we don't really talk about, and we also know it's a thing. What do you think's underneath all of that, in your opinion?
I think society, I think we are bombarded with so many images and messages that tell us we aren't good enough, we don't measure up, we're not pretty enough, we're not smart enough, we're not rich enough, we're not accomplished enough. And then that comparison trap where you for a moment may feel good about yourself or feel confident, and then you get on Instagram and that person has more followers, they're making more money, their boyfriend's hotter, they've got a bigger house, cuter kids. I mean, I say we laugh because it sounds absurd, but those are the things that happen. Or you're having a great day, feeling great about yourself, and you get onto Instagram and it's that immediate like shot to the heart, oh my gosh, I don't add up. Or I think we've become consciously desensitized, but subconsciously really, really negatively affected by all. We don't even realize, just like with this pandemic, I don't even think we realize how traumatized we are. And same with the messaging since day one, and especially as women, where we are kind of pitted against each other, or there is the constant comparison. And I just think we're kind of plugged into that. Kind of we know, sometimes we don't even realize. And then I think we do this thing that we all do, by the way, so please don't beat yourself up. And I write about it in the book, that someone says something to us when we're young. And for example, I have a memory of being at the swim club. I was 4 or 5 years old in swim lessons that I wasn't really feeling. And I wasn't really feeling my instructor either. Yeah. And I remember overhearing him saying to my mother something to the effect of, I wasn't a very good swimmer. And it breaks my heart that as a 4-year-old child, I internalized that into, I'm not good enough. Oh my gosh, I have these parents who are so athletic. I don't want them to have a child who's a bad swimmer. Yeah. Oh my gosh, like it was traumatizing. And the message I received then was, I'm not good enough. And rather than like, screw this guy, what does he know? Or I'm foreign fabulous, or I don't want to do this anyway, I took that to heart as the truth. So I think we're all guilty of that, we all have childhood wounds. Even if you had a great childhood, somebody said something to you at school and it stuck with you, whether you realize it or not. And then we live our lives from that place rather than the empowered place of, I am powerful. Like, I am the bomb. Like, I am brilliant, because we feel almost foolish walking around saying like, I'm beautiful, I'm brilliant, because then what do we get? Like, well, who does she think she is? And it's like, I'm a child of God. I'm created by the same force that created the sun and the beach. Like, I'm pretty fabulous. And that's where I think the disconnect is, that it's actually humble, not arrogant, to think you're fantastic. So I think it's,
Well, and I really feel like this conversation has been coming up. And I'm so glad that you said it, because I feel like it comes up over and over and over again, especially this season for some reason. I have interviewed people like Terry Cole and Kate Northrup, and we're all talking about the same thing, which I hope is pointing to a collective awakening. Not just in women either. Like, we're all sort of waking up to these tropes in our life, these anchors, these deep-rooted stories that were fed to us maybe as children of the 70s and 80s, that are just no longer true, no longer useful, and we're all waking up to, hang on, that's not helping. Let's let go of that. Let's think a different thought, right?
Yeah, I think that's what this past year has really shown me, where now it's not even a luxury or must be nice to care for ourselves, or, that self-love, self-care gets, put on such a pedestal. And it's like, what does that even mean? And I think now I'm saying no to this thing or this person because my well-being now has to be front and center. It's no longer optional, because otherwise it's going to get really ugly, because there's been so much thrown at us. So I think now it is that era of letting things go and really just making that space for what is really feeding and nourishing not just your body or your mind, but your spirit. And that's what this book is about, and really strengthening that inner core. Because once you figure that out, once you got that aligned, once you're grounded in that, the rest is just, it just all comes naturally. You don't have to try so hard. You don't even care about the social media likes or any of that, because you're attracting the right people and opportunities and experiences into your life. And so that's the good news, because then it's even the people like, I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time for my spiritual practices. Oh, that's, does that even work? Yeah, it
Yeah.
And I think people are a little more open to it now because it's just like, oh, things have gotten so bad for so many people that it's just like, what can you turn to? And how beautiful that you can always turn to yourself and go within. And it's free. And it's free. And it works.
This is where I want to deep dive into today, because I feel like this is such valuable information. And it almost takes, for anyone that's listening on the other side of the earbuds here, it almost takes a permission, of just like, that whole thing that I've been doing for God knows how many years that has been getting me to the point of overwhelm and burnout and feeling like you're stuck. Like, it's time to give yourself permission to just try something different. Try something that might actually open a whole new other aspect of your brain. And so, yes, I want to ask, before we dive into the full spirit workout, at what age did you begin modeling? Because I think that's also a very interesting aspect of your life story that probably also brought you to writing this book.
Yeah, it's a great question. And it sounds, I'm laughing because I think I was 31 and a size 12. Mm-hmm. So again, all signs point to, no, that's not possible. Doesn't happen. And I like sharing that because I think a lot of people, I had a client yesterday who was just, well, it'd be so much easier if I was in my 30s as opposed to my 40s. I'm like, is that even true? Like, what are you even talking about? Or I can't do that because of this. And, it's bad enough when other people put us in a box. So please don't put yourself in a box and say, I can't do this, or that's not possible because I haven't been to Harvard, or I'm not size 2, or I'm not 22. I don't have this skin tone. Right. I don't look this way. It's crap. It is crap. I don't want to curse on your show, but it's just like, enough already, everybody. And just honoring that you are way more powerful than that and way too fabulous for that limited way of thinking. I get it. We all have those thoughts, but they got to go. I mean, we've got stuff to do here. We need you to, whatever your gifts and talents are, we need you to really start using those to your full potential. And if you can't do it for yourself, as I say to my clients, then do it for your sister, do it for your grandma who died, do it for the people who don't have your advantages or privileges, do it for somebody else, for whatever higher power you believe in. Cause let's go, ladies. We've got some work to do here and it's important.
And let's just point out, for the record, anybody that's listening, isn't it just bonkers in our modern society that a quote unquote plus size model is a size 12? Like that's not plus size. That's just normal size. I'm just going to say that real quick.
Girl, a size 6 is considered plus size.
It's
in the fashion industry.
So bananas. But I mean, I like to believe that in the last couple of years, things are starting to shift. I'm starting to see more diversity in skin tones and ages and curves and even disabilities. I'm starting to see those things show up on billboards or in my magazines and all the things. And so I feel like there is a season of hope. Again, a collective awakening here. Do you agree?
I do. And I'm happy with the change that I have seen and am seeing, but I'm still seeing a little bit of some tokens here and there, even in the plus size world. I feel like most people know about Ashley Graham, but I'm just like, there are a lot more plus size models besides Ashley Graham. Yeah. She doesn't need to book every single job. So even that, I'm kind of like, all right, we're getting better, but still got some work to do. And rather than feeling in a place of that stinks or I feel hopeless or meh, is writing the letters, communicating your thoughts to your favorite designers or brands or whomever it is, and letting your voice be heard and not being shy about it. Yeah. And even if you're in an industry where it's like, well, you have to be X, Y, and Z, break that mold and go out there and set the example. So I do like the way that things are going. But I still think that there is a lot of work to do. I think we still see that even, the Bachelor show right now, I don't know if people watch, and there's the big racial conversation right now, which is awesome and is way late to the party in terms of having that conversation. But then I just can't help but think, okay, how many contestants are larger than size 2 on that show?
Right.
None, maybe 1, or there are 4, excuse me. So this isn't about skinny shaming versus fat shaming, or it should be more of this and that. It just, again, a broader picture of society and making people doing your role, if you have a platform like The Bachelor or anything, allowing people of all different shapes and sizes, ethnicities, incomes, whatever, to feel like they are invited to the party.
Yeah. And I think that this is back to the first question. This is what's underneath. This is what is really causing a part of why women don't feel as confident as maybe they could be. Because if you don't see yourself represented, then it perpetuates. It's a data point that says, I am not enough because I do not look like that, which is quote unquote success, or sexy, or confident, or whatever. So I want to back up a bit. And, talking about like how society really puts that emphasis on our physical bodies. You and I grew up at the same age where, the sign of beauty was Kate Moss and being rail thin. Society's all about losing weight and staying healthy and all of that. But why do you feel like we need to focus on shedding excess emotional or spiritual pounds? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so we all know you have to go to the gym and work out your physical muscles to combat against gravity.
Right.
Well, we also need to combat against emotional gravity like fear, depression, anxiety, COVID-19,
right.
The annoying neighbor next door, anything, judgment, that's a huge one. Anything that weighs us down. And just like, when you go to the gym, you don't go once and you're like, I'm good. You don't get your 6-pack and say, I never have to work out again. If you had a 6-pack, I've never had one, I don't know. But my guess is you have to work out a lot harder to maintain that physique. So It's the same with our mental and emotional and spiritual muscles. We have to exercise them, whether it's prayer, meditation, all these exercises. I give you so many in the book and really walking you through that. And it's the neuroscience and positive psychology and it's whole person coaching techniques that I learned in my training that really address the whole person, not just what is on the outside. Right. And when we get that internal calibration, then we don't need the external validation. We don't look for, I need this, I need that. It's like this life that's like, I need to get this or do that or have that. It's about being the person who naturally attracts all of that. So it is work. It is simple. It's not easy. Again, it's like, being the athlete. It takes that commitment and dedication and accountability and really just like, this isn't working. So I'm willing to try. Mm-hmm. And just that willingness is everything. I think a lot of times people have good intentions and they aren't enough. You have to be willing to show up and do the work.
And see, this is where I think your book is really interesting to me, is that the premise is, we spend all this time and effort focusing on our physical bodies. Now let's go internal and focus on our spiritual bodies. And I have been reading your book and equally listening to the audiobook, an older book actually, by Cameron Diaz called The Body Book. And her book is all physical, right? And it touched a little bit about mindset, but it's like physical. And it was a nice exercise to actually listen to that one and equally read yours at the same time to back what you say of whole person coaching, right? And that's been a really interesting exercise.
Yeah. And I, mine is also for the physical too, because right. When you do work out all of the inner, the external takes care of itself. As my swim coach would say, you take care of the little things, the big things will take care of themselves. So going in and really sharpening or fine-tuning your instrument, sharpening your sword, as I like to say, and then you get the external results, whether it's the relationship, the self-confidence, the money, the opportunity, shedding of the weight, because you're no longer, speaking from experience, needing to eat the pizza a couple of times a week. And I'm not talking about a piece, I'm talking about the whole pizza, or you don't need to numb with alcohol or whatever else you're doing, which I have no judgment for because everyone has their thing, right? But again, not needing any of that because you're so solid on the inside.
I 100% agree. And I'd like to read a little bit from your book, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So page 161, it's in chapter 6, which is all about boosting your mental metabolism. This is what you say here. What if statements are the truth? What if it was this conscious connection to your truth, which you can activate at any time, is what I refer to as connecting to our full spirit, Our full spirit is our truth, our light, our power, our connection to self and others, and the epicenter of love. So I invite you to set aside time each day to boost your mental metabolism by sitting in the silence and sacredness of your full spirit. So talk to me what full spirit means to you and why you called the book The Full Spirit Workout.
Thank you for reading that to me. It's so nice to have someone else read your words back to you. And it's just like, wow, that really, you've done your work when you're touched by your own words, not to sound whatever, but it's just like, gosh, that felt good because, I was sharing with you before the call, there's so much going on, you're stressed out, whatever. And just, again, that reminder that at any time throughout the day, you can take even just 2 minutes and come back home.
Yeah.
To your center.
Yeah.
So the title to me, again, growing up in the sports and athletic world and all the gyms is just everyone would always talk about the full body workout. This is a full body workout. You're getting shape from head to toe.
Yeah.
So this is the full spirit workout. So we're working our inside, we're getting our spirit in shape and our mental and emotional muscles in shape. And so it's a play on that, but it's also about bringing your full spirit to everything you do and to everyone you meet, your full spirit, your love, like you said, your light, your power, your purpose, your presence, your passion, showing up with that. Because I don't know about, people are like, I can't get the job, I can't get the relationship. And they're showing up with not even any spirit. It's like, you show up with your full spirit. I promise you, you're gonna attract a lot of the things you want. Some you didn't even know you want. And if you don't get it, it's not for you anyway. So you can just look at yourself in the mirror every night. Like, I brought my full spirit. I did my work. What shall be, shall be. And the end. And it takes all of that like ickiness and that pressure off. And you're just showing up. And then it's like, I showed up. I gave you my all. If you like me, great. If you don't like me, great. I'm going off to the next thing. And I say that with so much passion because I have been a person who placed so much stock in what other people thought and all of that crap that I can't control. So now it's like you show up like that. And then it's like, whatever happens, I'm good. Yeah. And you mean that.
Yeah. And so you break it down into 10 steps and let's maybe take a deep dive into a couple of them. And what I really enjoyed about the book is that, each of the steps, it sort of follows along as if I were doing a physical workout. So stretching and feeling the burn and all the things, but also taking that lens of what I know in my exercise world and treating it towards my internal, my spirit world. I think has been really a fun, playful exercise for me too, going through the steps. So let's do a deep dive into step 4, strengthen your core confidence, and step 6, boosting your mental metabolism. So start with core confidence first. How can we strengthen that?
Absolutely. So I love this one because I wrote a whole research paper on it and I went through so many articles and books and interviewed so many leaders in business and sports. And I came up with a few themes that have been really impactful for my clients and different speaking events that I've done. And first I have to say, which is really cool that I love that I discovered, is that the word confidence stems from the words to trust, to do something with trust. And I find that so beautiful because, again, it's something that we all have access to. And so trust meaning surrender, giving up that need to control. Also our willingness to show up and not be great yet or at all. That's me in dance class. I'm never going to be awesome at dance, but I show up, I have fun. It boosts my confidence because I'm like, I'm here, kind of making a fool of myself in front of all these people and nobody cares. They're like, wow, that woman has some confidence, right? And then my research, I came up with the 5 Ps of confidence. And the first is presence. And I just talked about that a little bit, but it's really showing up with all of you. So in a world full of distractions, it's being all there. And you get called out on your presence if you're with dogs or kids, for example, because they're like, my niece and Aunt Kate. Mm-hmm. They want you to be all there, not on your phone, not drifting off, and also showing up with that full body presence of like, I'm here and I'm going to make an impact. And even if you're in the room and you're quiet, people can feel your energy.
Yeah.
And then, and everyone knows that. The next P is patience. So that's where we're trusting the process. We're trusting that what's best for us is either already here or it's on its way. And we're kind of giving up, again, that need to really control. Then we have purpose. And I go into these in much more depth in the book, but for lack of time here, I could go on and on. Yeah. Purpose. So on those days, which we've all had them, right? Where screw this, or I'm tired, or whatever. If you can't show up for yourself, show up for a higher purpose. So I wrote this book for my two dear friends who I lost to suicide. So I have a really strong why, a really strong purpose. So the days that it's really hard, I go back to my why and my purpose. So the days you can't show up for yourself, maybe you show up for your spouse, your coworker, your friend, your parent, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we have preparation. So that makes kind of sense. If you're prepared, you're going to have more confidence because you're going to get better results rather than just flying by the seat of your pants, which I've done that too. But then you're in more of that like manic space as opposed to solid and grounded. I'm prepared. Now I'm just going to be present, be patient, remember my purpose, voila.
Yeah.
And then the last one is practice. I think a lot of times too, even with coaching, or people think that something's wrong with them if they need coaching, or people like, I'm already confident. And maybe you're confident in getting the business deal, but you're not confident when it comes to having the really difficult conversation with your direct report or your business partner or your spouse. So we can all boost our confidence in some areas. And also the practice, it builds new habits, which also then lead to new results. So you're just building, again, that muscle and showing up with practice. Again, a sports analogy, people say, I love that he and I are the same age, and I get sore knees in Pilates class, and Tom Brady just won a Super Bowl again.
Right.
And so I try to tell people who are like, ooh, do I need to get a coach or something? It's, Tom Brady has more coaches than anyone and works harder than anyone, not because he's the worst, but because he's the best. So just know that your talent merits investment, whatever that means to you. And practice. Sometimes I think we're guilty of, I don't have an hour to go to the gym, or I don't have an hour to meditate or work through my stuff or journal. 5 minutes. Even I have a client, he's like, I can't do 5 minutes. He's very, very successful. So we're starting him at 2 minutes with his mindfulness practice. Yeah. So even if it's 2 minutes a day to sit and stare out the window and take a step back and just check in with yourself, go for it.
It's such good advice. There's a couple of things that I heard in that. First, 100% agree. When you feel so strapped for time, even 2 minutes can do a world of good. I found myself yesterday feeling anxious for no particular reason, like really silly. And so I was like, okay, what do I know is true? What's in my tool belt of tricks that help me get back to center? And for me, it's literally as simple as standing outside in the sunshine. So I was like, yesterday, did a reset between one call to a next. I went outside, I stood in the sunshine, I held my dog close to me, and it was, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. And that helped my nervous system get back to center and to go, oh, okay, we're fine. And so I think we overcomplicate what we think we need when it comes to grounding, but also self-care. We think, oh, well, I'm going to have to take a whole day off to really take care of myself. And it's like, no, probably just some breath work, 3 deep breaths, grounding your feet, taking your shoes off, getting in the grass outside, standing in the sunshine. It's a lot simpler than you think, right?
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And even as you were speaking, the thing that came to me is when you do start to really do these full spirit exercises or take this time and do these practices, you become more in alignment with yourself, with the world, with the universe, with source, whatever you want to call it, where I'm fine. And that's why I kind of laugh, because every time I'm in that throw my hands in the air moment, which we've all been there, throw in the towel, throw my hands in the air, I get the email, I get the phone call. Even this morning, I had a friend call. I haven't talked to her in a while, and she was just all, cheery and smiling and laughing. And she said, I saw something yesterday and it made me want to call you and give you this message, like quote or something. And it's just, so that's when I do almost want to weep, not boo-hoo, but weep, because I think sometimes we think we have to figure it out all on our own. We are all on our own. And we're constantly surrounded by love and people who want to support us. And you get the phone call and you get the email. And that goes back to confidence, to trust.
Yes.
And I think everyone understands that intellectually, but it is really moving that from the head down to the heart, getting it in your body, where even on your worst day, you're like, I trust it's going to get better. And the right people are going to reach out, and I'm going to get the opportunity because I put in the work. I'm not just sitting here eating bonbons all day. Like, I trust.
Yeah.
No, you're putting in the work,
yeah.
But trusting that it's all lining up for you. And if this isn't lining up for you, being okay that that's not my thing. I'll go for this thing.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that points to the second thing that I heard in what you said there with the 5 Ps is really comes down to repetition. I think where I lack confidence in certain aspects of my life, and I would actually call myself a fairly confident person, especially in business, but some personal things like body confidence, how I look in a bikini, let's just be honest for a second, not so much. But I think what I heard is repetition. The more times you show up to the work gets easier. And so as I go through my own body positivity, self-acceptance, self-love journey myself, I realize it takes practice. It takes a daily practice, again, to come back to center, to get to yoga, to say nice things to myself and affirmations and otherwise. That helps you build that confidence bit by bit over time. There's no magic pill, right?
No, and I appreciate you saying that. It is the consistency, and that goes back to what I learned from my swimming career. I mean, putting in, just day after day, but all the laps and all the reps. And that's why I made this book and these exercises more fun than maybe, doing burpees or something at the gym that are awful. I'm sorry. So it is. And again, not beating ourselves up. And today I got in 2 minutes. And just being, just like everyone has to eat and sleep every day, or everyone, the people that I've said it myself, well, I don't have time for X, but I'm like, you were just on Instagram for 2 hours. Cause I set the little timers on my phone and it's 10 a.m. I'm like, how have I been on Instagram for 2 hours?
Yeah.
But then we say we don't have time to properly care for ourselves. So it's a gentle call out, but I think the more that we can just be honest about what's really going on inside of us at our core, then we're better equipped to really handle whatever comes our way, because you think of it as your iron shield. It's like everything negative is going to bounce off of that because you've just built up that strong musculature.
And it points me back to what you said at the beginning. I think, oh gosh, what I think is really hard, Kate, and I'm curious to see how you've overcome it or if you're still grappling it with yourself. I think that when you identify yourself as a high achiever, a type A go-getter kind of person, it is so freaking hard to equally hold that identity and equally hold the identity of, well, I am worthy and valuable even when I do nothing, when I accomplish nothing. And I have a hard time holding both of those equally because I don't know if I necessarily believe that to my core. How have you overcome that?
Wow. Well, thank you for your honesty. And I think you speak for everybody at one time or another, and certainly speak for me. And something that I've had that's been a huge, huge thing for me to overcome. And again, still have to practice every day. None of us are Buddha on the mountain. And if anyone tells you they have it all figured out, I would be a little leery.
Yeah.
That's where, and I think too, you can be having a great day or a great week or a great month and something happens and you're off your path, and that's fine. And that's human and that's normal. So we just gather ourselves back on to the path. But with that, you have to do the practices of taking the time off. And I call it the art of doing absolutely nothing and staying in your pajamas all day and ordering your favorite food and having your tea and staring out the window at nature or being on the phone with your friend and just taking that downtime. And even if there is some shame or guilt that you're working through, please know that when you take that time, be it 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 weeks, whatever, when you do come back to your achieving and your work, you're going to be much more efficient, much more effective. You're going to actually like what you're doing. You're going to be more fun to be around. So even again, if you have to look at it like that, but ultimately you brought up the belief. It is letting go of that belief.
Yeah.
Because you would question it. Is that even true? That if I'm not accomplishing anything today in the material world, if I'm not making money today, I'm not worthy or valuable. Says who? Is that even true? So first of all, checking that belief. And then it's like, okay, maybe that isn't true. Or I'm willing to let that go. So then what are you going to replace it with? And then it is doing the journaling exercises, like we talked about, consistency and repetition of I'm worthy because I am. I'm valuable because I am. I don't have to do, I don't have to be, I don't have to have anything to be worthy or valuable or loved. I just already am. And this isn't a religious thing. When I say God, I know that's a loaded word. I mean, God is love.
Yeah.
I'm a child of God. If you don't believe in God, it's a friend of mine. He's like, I believe in nature, which I'm like, okay, great. I'm natural like nature. I'm like the rocks and the sun and the stars. I have that potency and power, something like that. Whatever works for you, but just really dwelling in that space.
Yeah.
Sorry, I could go on and on about this because it's a huge thing. And I think a lot of my high achievers and a lot of my intellectual clients who are working in private equity or whatever, again, they understand this intellectually, but then it's like, yeah, but so it is a lot of unlearning and recalibrating patterns and willing to do that. But as long as you're willing, it's like, okay, I don't think but I'm willing, you know?
Well, and that's it. Like I think that it is a lifelong journey to release that story that accomplishments and achievements and sticker charts and trophies equals a good human being or equals success. And I have not achieved that yet. I feel like I'm waking up to it, but I still have a long way to go. And I really liked what you said in your book, page 137. Let me find it real quick. That giving up or surrendering as an act of faith is a whole new way of problem solving. It's a more grounding and peaceful approach to getting what we want more easily. It's the opposite of rushing around or forcing. And it reminds me of nature. Nature does not struggle to express its beauty and glory. Flowers weren't created to struggle, and neither are we as human beings. It's just a lie that we've been told to be productive and make it happen. But we don't have to subscribe to that struggle. That's why it's so important for each of us to sign a contract to unsubscribe from the struggle in the introduction. And I think the struggle for me is you have to achieve. If you're not achieving, you're taking up space and you're wasting your precious life. Yeah, so what would you say to that person asking for a friend?
Yeah, thank you. Well, to your friend, I would say that how about taking a nap and feeling really good and peaceful is achieving inner peace? How about taking the afternoon off to go walk at the park and connect with a friend is achieving connection and well-being? And so I think it's just redefining what achievement even is and doing that for ourselves. But also, you brought up about giving it up. And I think one of the most toxic things you can say to someone, and you hear this all the time, and it's very dismissive. And oftentimes people who love us very much say it, that whole, just let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. I reframe that into give it up. And what I mean by that is like, give it up to a higher power, give it over. I will look up and say, I am spinning. I am out of my mind. I am having a meltdown. Please take this from me.
Yeah.
And just releasing that. And then again, you're clearing that space. But I think we just have to look at ourselves as whole people and not just the business person who makes X amount of dollars and speaks at this webinar and does this thing, but looking like, who are you underneath all of that? And I write about that in the introduction because for a long time, who am I? What do I really want? I had no idea. And I'm an intelligent person. I mean, that was really sad to me. And I think you see it played out in society too. And that was my massive wake up call is, being in love with a man who had it all of everything. Perfect 10 on paper, and chose to end his life. And that was to me like, wow. And that was the deep dive in all the spiritual work that I've done, where I came to the realization that anything outside of us can offer us temporary happiness at best.
Yeah.
Because I see that too. It's like you get the new car and you're really happy for 15 minutes or a day. And then it's like, well, I want the next thing. Or you move into the new house and it's like, well, I want a bigger house. I want a nicer neighborhood. And whatever that thing is for you, or you make your first $100,000 at your business. Okay, that's good. Well, why am I not making more? I should be making $500,000. Why am I not a millionaire? And it sounds sick when you verbalize this out loud, but it's safe to say that we've all done this, and it's so sad because that sets us up for failure, that we never feel at peace, we never feel fulfilled, we never feel enjoy, and we just never feel good enough within ourselves. So something else, it's like something's got to give and something else is going to have to fill that. And for me, it is that connection. I mean, this conversation feels like $1 million. I feel so great because I'm not making a penny from this conversation. I'm so lit up. I'm so happy because I value connection. And whether I'm connecting with you, your audience who I can't see, may never meet, but I can kind of feel that connection when they're listening. And that to me is achievement. And that to me is success. And that to me is my purpose. So I think if you can start to redefine things for yourself and again, shift that perspective, give it that reframe, you'll find yourself in a much better place. And all of those things, you're like the car, the house, the relationship, by the way, they will come to you much more easily from this place. I promise you, I've done all of this work. Right. So I am the proof. I'm not just like, hope this works. I have seen it, and I have seen it with countless clients. It does work, but you have to do it. I am your personal trainer, but I can't do the sit-ups for you.
Yeah.
So you
have to release that not enough trope. I think that's the core of a lot of the work in the book and what I'm hearing in our conversation today. It's that trope of not enough. It's so vicious and insidious, and it seeps into so many aspects of how we perceive ourselves in our professional sense, in our self-love and how we perceive our bodies, and how we perceive our relationships, all of it. It's so fascinating and heartbreaking how it seeps into so much. And I think that talks into your step 6, the boosting your mental metabolism. You talk about like reframing situations. So, and words are so powerful. But you also talk about taking yourself on a strengths date. What does that mean?
I love that. So, and you can take this assessment. It's the values in action. It's your VIA character strength, or VIA. And maybe we can provide a link for that, or you can Google it. But the VIA character strengths, and it's by Martin Seligman, who created positive psychology, and a partner of his came up with this. But you answer a series of questions, and it comes up with your signature strengths. And my number 1 is love, and then followed by humor and love of learning. So I know that those are my strengths. And I take myself on dates all the time. I'm very confident being alone and a very independent gal. But I think it is that too, where you can really reconnect with yourself, whether you take yourself on a strengths date. So for me, best case scenario, when I used to work in Italy, after work, I would then travel to another part of the country and experience, the incredible wine and the food and just the authentic culture.
Yes.
If you're just around town, maybe you go to your favorite coffee shop. Maybe you try a new place, something like that. But I do a lot of strength-based coaching because a lot of times I think we tend to focus on where we're getting it wrong, where we're not adding up. And while it's important to explore that, if you choose, I think when you can really signal in on your strengths and build from that. So something I will ask my clients, for example, when they're super stuck or they feel like they can't overcome something, is what made you successful in the past? And that's where I see this huge, you see people like their face pop off because it's like, oh, well, I just did X, Y, and Z because I'm so good at that. And so I do find when I ask people, people know their strengths.
Yes.
It's just we diminish it by that one thing we're not so good at. So I think it's just getting, really exploring that, spending some time there. And then another reframe, we talked about the what if, this is so hard. Starting a business is so hard. Oh, getting new customers, it's so hard. Okay, maybe. But a more empowering way to look at that is, what if this was fun? What if this was easy? What if, and just take yourself on that what if journey and have fun with it and be playful and explore. And I will say my favorite reframe, and I write about it in the book, is I did have that line or belief that said, I'm a perfectionist. My perfectionism is getting in my way. And it felt that way. And a friend of mine, Natasha, reframed that as, she said, you care. You have a spirit of excellence and you care. And so what if you just have a respect for mastery? And going with, again, a strength, I have a respect for mastery versus like, I'm such a perfectionist and it's like killing my vibe. Much similar concept, but reframed in a way that I let that respect for mastery work for me in terms of excellence and performance, as opposed to I'm such a perfectionist and nothing's ever good enough. And I don't even want to do this speech because I'm not going to do it perfectly. And yeah.
So just reframing it with different words, trying something on for size. I think that requires a bit of a playfulness because I think whenever I have been hit with anxiety or depression or just in a dark place in seasons of my life, it's where hope is very dim and it's hard to pull yourself out of the darkness. But I think when we can remember that just adding a little bit of playfulness into it, and that kind of cracks open the seam just a little bit so the light gets in, that you can start to look at it with a more of a playful approach. It's almost like, when you're in science class and you're experimenting with different things and seeing how when we take the seriousness, the deep intensity of our life and all the pressure we put on ourselves to strive, compete, perform, be the best, it opens something new in your spirit to try something different, right? Yeah,
I love that different. Or sometimes people say bigger or better. Maybe. Sometimes it's different.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah. And, the power of sunshine, if you are in a place that doesn't get very much sunshine, girl, I feel you. I have lived in England for many, many years and remember, yes, bad, hard when you don't have sunshine. But, just remembering what's most important that helps you get back to center. Remember how to find your own inner sunshine in it all as well. So one way you can do that is certainly go check out Kate's book, The Full Spirit Workout, a 10-step system to shed your self-doubt, strengthen your spiritual core, and create a fun and fulfilling life. It is officially out in bookstores today, so you can find it at your local bookshop right around the corner or online, wherever you like. You also can get more information about free goodies that she is offering people who purchase the book at her website, thefullspiritworkout.com. All the links and all the resources we talked about in today's conversation are in our show notes at the Simplifierspodcast.com. And having read the book, I really encourage you. It is something that I would encourage just to check out and take bits that you need and scrap the rest if it doesn't serve you at this point, but you might find a real breakthrough in boosting your self-confidence. So, Kate, I have a few questions as we wrap up that I like to ask everybody. And again, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
Tell me, what's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system?
I love the author Byron Katie, and she wrote this book, I Need Your Love, Is That True? And it's a great self-discovery tool, again, when you are stuck in that place of a limiting belief and questioning, is this even true? And who would I be without this thought? And just that notion that we have everything we need. And it's like, how do we know we don't need it? Because we don't have it. It's deep and yummy and delicious. And it's really gotten me to think on a broader scale.
I haven't read that yet, so I will put that in the show notes for people if you guys want to check that out. Tell me, who's one person in your network, somebody that you know personally that you just feel is up to brilliant things? We could shine a spotlight on them, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast.
That's so nice. The first person that came to mind who I wrote about in the book is my friend and colleague, Vanessa Tennyson. And she's also a executive coach. I studied with her at Columbia, and she's a 62-year-old transgender woman who experienced so much success as a male business person and kind of had to give it all up when she decided to transition into becoming a woman. So I just admire her so much. And something that she's really taught me is just the power and the importance of being authentically who you need to be. And so she's a real leader in that sense. And she's up to a lot of big things. And she inspires me so much because it's so challenging to show up courageously who we are every day in the world, and to show up as someone who isn't respected by all of society or treated well by all of society simply by being who she authentically needs to be, she's a real trailblazer in that sense, and someone we can all learn from.
She sounds absolutely brilliant. I definitely will link up with her for sure. So her details will be in the show notes if you want to check her work out as well. So I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for this conversation. I so needed this. This is such a testament. Conversations and communication are a strength of mine. Connection is a number one value of mine. Just showing up and being able to have a real conversation, and I am so grateful for you, for your show, for your listeners, and all of us just being willing to show up, however we are, and letting just okay be good enough when we're just in an okay place.
I'm grateful for you too. So thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Her website is kateeckman.tv, or also thefullspiritworkout.com. I'll put all of her links in the show notes for social media if you want to get connected and talk directly to Kate. So my final question for you today is this, Kate. And again, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Someone somewhere is listening to us right now, and she gets it. She hears what we're saying, again, on an intellectual level. But on a deep, deep, deep level, she goes, I don't know. Her confidence, if it was a scale of 1 to 10, is a -2. What would you whisper into her ear right now just to encourage her in this moment?
You are so powerful, and I believe in you.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate. Big love to you.
Thank you.